Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to this debate for the bill entitled the Appropriation 2024 Bill 2023, to lend my support to the mover of the bill and to share with the public how their financial resources will be used in 2024 in the ministries that fall under my portfolio. These ministries being agriculture, fisheries, marine resources and cannabis, sports and the creative economy, and small business, entrepreneurship, and cooperatives. Madam Speaker, Deputy, we can all agree that these are extremely important areas, especially when placed in the context of our nation and its development into a sustainable small island state. These ministries, Madam Deputy Speaker, affect the well-being of our entire nation and promises significant room for growth and development of our people and generally our economy. Madam Deputy Speaker, allow me to take some time and turn our attentions to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources. Madam Speaker, our goal in this ministry is quite clear. When one considers that the ministry's contribution to the sustainable development and the development of a sustainable island state will contribute to SDG 2, Zero Hunger, SDG 3, Good Health and Well-Being, SDG 5, Gender Equality, SDG 14, Life Below Water, and SDG 15, Life on Land. Then we recognize, Madam Deputy Speaker, the significance of the work that we do and the importance of this budget in helping us to meet these goals. Madam Speaker, we want our people to not only have more locally produced food, but to ensure that this food is of the highest nutritional value and standard. Additionally, we want to ensure that whatever is earned from what we consume goes into the pockets of our farmers and our fisher folk and our agro-producers, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, we want that money to stay within and build our economy. Madam Deputy, as a responsible member of CARICOM, and you heard it from the member opposite, we have bought into the 25 by 25 agenda. This wasn't started in St. Kitts. This was started as an initiative by CARICOM, where we have agreed across the entire CARICOM to invest in our people, that they may be more adequately able to participate in reducing our food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. Based on our most recent food bill, Madam Deputy, this means that we are cutting an approximate $200 million in our annual food bill by 25%. Which is roughly $50 million per year. Madam Deputy Speaker, I have consistently said that when CARICOM speaks of the success of its 25 by 25 agenda, St. Kitts and Nevis will be part of that success story. And I was happy to hear the member from Nevis echoing the same sentiment. Because, Madam Speaker, I can say confidently that we have a very clear plan as to how we are going to get there, and not just having a plan, but we are well on our way. We heard our Honorable Prime Minister and mover of the bill speak to some of these plans, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I will expound on these. But first, for the benefit of some of us here and others listening, let me expound and articulate on the general framework of the plan. You see, Madam Speaker, one thing that is certainly clear. For us to reduce our reliance on imports, we must then improve our own production. That's just basic common sense. To achieve this, Madam Speaker, we have recognized, however, that there are some critical areas of focus. First of all, we've recognized that to get there, we need improved stakeholder engagement. We recognize that there must be increased education and training. We recognize that there must be improved production practices. We also recognize that we have to improve post-harvest management. Madam Deputy Speaker, we also recognize that increased marketing and sales effort for agricultural produce must be another area of focus. The development of value-added sectors must be also an area of focus, Madam Deputy. And we must improve access to agricultural financing and agricultural insurance. You see, Madam Deputy Speaker, while not exclusive, these critical areas have assisted in developing a framework for the development of the sector. And as a government, we have been making significant investments in our farmers. Madam Deputy Speaker, we are quite keen on hearing from our stakeholders. These stakeholders operating in the sector and the ministry as well would have initiated a number of meetings with these stakeholders, Madam Speaker, inside the ministry and outside. And over the course of 2023, we would have seen our engagement in a number of critical areas, discussing a wide range of issues, Madam Deputy Speaker. We have discussed the impact of the drought. We have discussed land distribution and preparation, Madam Deputy. We have discussed our plans for the 25 by 25 agenda. And that is not just in St. Kitts, as you heard from the member opposite. We have had those meetings across the waters. We have discussed our access to water. We have discussed duty-free concessions for our farmers. We have discussed the availability of agricultural inputs, and we have also discussed quite extensively the Cannabis Act. We also had engagement, Madam Deputy Speaker, with students in the schools. As indicated, that will form a major part of the way forward. You see, Madam Speaker, for us, when we look at agricultural development, we initially have to focus on our 25 by 25 agenda, but it does not stop there, because there's a beyond 2025. There's life beyond 2025. And so we recognize that the youth engagement is critical, and these will continue well into the future. Madam Speaker, I want to hone in a little bit more here, because I want the nation and the world to understand where we are going with agriculture. I want the nation and the world to be very intimately involved with the way forward. And I hope that by the end of this, we are then able to see how quite advanced we are and how close we are to achieving our agenda. Let's talk about training for our farmers, Madam Speaker. You see, a critical part of the transformation of any sector must include training. And this year, we conducted a number of training sessions, a number of workshops. We conducted a 2-week training for extension officers, and we are developing new systems and report structures that they will use, because our extension officers are the ones who first interact directly with our farmers. Madam Speaker, we have also had extensive discussions, and you've heard a lot about it, with Southern University about agricultural training. We have gone as far as having the president and the chairman of Southern University agreed to visit our island to sign an agricultural MOU that solidifies all these discussions. That will be taking place in another 2 weeks, Madam Deputy Speaker. We have gone even further than just Southern University. Madam Deputy, we have also had engagements with persons around the region. And I could tell you that in January, Mr. Emmanuel is scheduled to be visiting our island and being a part of the training of our sector. We're talking about post-harvest, we're talking about production training across the entire gamut. But we believe that this is critical, and we are investing in ensuring that our farmers, our fisherfolk, and everyone in the agriculture sector is well trained. And this will continue well into 2024 and beyond. And I want us to understand that, Madam Speaker. Greenhouse production training. We've heard member opposite speak about our situation with greenhouse production. And I want to say more on that, because he's indeed right. Our country had seen a boom in greenhouse construction, some 30+ greenhouses. Unfortunately, not many of them are actively operating as we speak. And this is why we went back to the drawing board, analyzed what was happening there, sought to deduce from that what may have been or may not have been the issues why they're not operating. And from our findings, along with evidence from around the region, we recognize then that the better approach will be greenhouse villages. And why did we say that? We recognize that in clustering the greenhouses, you will not only have greater sustainability, you won't, because you're reducing the inputs, you have now the ability for workers to be on site to help to observe and maintain and manage. But there are a number of other benefits, and I will come to more of them as I go deeper into the greenhouse villages. But I want to talk some more about training. We also recognize that our current stock of farmers are aging. And so, again, we have already started programming training for beginning farmers. So anyone out there that is coming from the private sector or wherever you're coming from, just finishing school, never planted a tree in your life, we are training you in agriculture. Because we recognize that we need our farmers to be well trained, Madam Deputy Speaker. By the time I'm done, I believe everybody in this country will want to start farming, because when they understand the potential of agriculture, and I will make it very clear here today, the type of potential that we are harnessing. But training for beginning farmers. So I encourage everyone to register at the department. If you are interested in any way in farming, please register, because training section will be done. Madam Deputy Speaker, as we talk about agriculture and its advancement, we recognize training. But then we also have to recognize the significant impact water is having on agriculture. Water security. The Minister of Water is right here, and I'm happy that he's here. You see, Madam Speaker, water is life for all life. It is life for human beings, it is life for animals, and it is life for plants. We can't escape that. And our access to water here in St. Kitts and Nevis has been negatively impacted by the effects of climate change. You heard the member and senator who spoke about the impact climate change is having on our society. And the truth is, none of us can really control that. None of us here independently can really control that. However, what we can do is make our farmers more resilient to be able to mitigate these challenges. And so that is what we have been doing as a careful, focused government. You see, Madam Deputy Speaker, we all recognize our days are getting hotter. We have had prolonged incidents of drought. And so, when you couple that with a developing society, the need for water now is stretched. And our farmers have long been suffering because of that. But, Madam Speaker, we are not ones to just sit back and say, well, there's a problem and do nothing about it. As you recognize, the A-team gets to work and we get to deliver it. And so that is why, Madam Speaker, we came up with the revolutionary initiative that we term DRIP. The Drought Resilience Irrigation Project. DRIP. Just by the name, you understand the significance of it. Now, through this project that we launched on World Food Day while we were celebrating this year, this project will see hundreds of farmers receiving supplies to increase water availability, with the use of water storage tanks to help harvest and store water for longer periods of time, improve water use with the use of drip lines that will distribute the water to the root of the plant exactly where the plant needs it. And that will improve water consumption significantly. And to increase water retention in the soil with the use of ground covers. The ground covers will also suppress weeds, which will then not only reduce the work of the farmer, but reduce the need for harmful pesticides. And so, again, we go to sustainability. And one would think, well, that's a brilliant idea as is, right? But we didn't stop there, because we recognized then, with the impact of feral animals that we are having in agriculture, we also considered the protection of these crops and included fencing supplies along with solar energizers to deter the monkeys. We have already begun this. We are well on our way, Madam Speaker. As we speak, we are set already from 2023 into 2024 to deliver this to over 200 farmers. Over 200 farmers. And I want us to understand, a number of farmers would have already received, and we already have a list of over 100 other farmers who have signed on. And we are working through that list to get these supplies to over 200 farmers by the end of 2024. Madam Speaker, what this essentially means based on the project outline, is that over 500 acres of productive land in St. Kitts and Nevis will be under this type of production. Now, I want to note something here, because I want people to understand this isn't just talking. And this isn't just ideas and dreaming alone. I want to note that this package was modeled from one of the most productive local farms on St. Kitts. This farm has won Best Farm in its category for 5 of the past 5 years. This farmer has been dubbed Farmer of the Year for 2 of the past 5 years. So that is the famed yellows, as we call him. And so, Madam Speaker, this package is modeled from a tried and tested approach. We are seeing the success from yellows, and we are saying that success must be mimicked for all our farmers. So if he could win Farmer of the Year all the time, well, twice, and win Best Farm under 5 acres all the time, then why won't we make all farms under 5 acres the same? One, give him some competition, yes. But the objective is to increase productivity. Increase productivity. And, Madam Speaker, while we are in that conversation, we have also identified crops that work well with this type of production, and identify the targets, and identify how much land we will actually use and need to get there. And we've met with the farming community, which is how they were able to sign on to this. I am told, as of today, close to 150 of the farmers have already signed on to this. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, when we look at the combined acreage of the farmers that have already signed on, and the average production yield based on the model design, we are well on our way to meeting our 25 by 25 agenda. We are well on our way to our target of $50 million of productivity right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Deputy Speaker, could you imagine putting over $50 million into the hands of our farmers? Directly into the hands of our farmers. Talk about economic development. Talk about economic diversification. Because now this ain't CBI money. This is real money, cultivated right here on. You know, the move of the bill talk about growing wealth. This is what we're doing here, growing wealth here, Madam Speaker. On a tree. On a tree. We are growing wealth here for our people, Madam Speaker. This is what we call the development of a sustainable island state, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I believe the country would agree with me when I said this government good, 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 and nice, nice, nice.
This government good. This government nice. You got something.
We are developing steadily a sustainable island state. And the challenge that we are having, if any, is that we had persons who failed at doing it and want to distract everybody from what is actually happening. Want to distract everybody from the actual happenings. Madam Speaker, we spoke about the greenhouse villages. You heard the member opposite as he spoke about our thrust towards intensive agriculture. We are but 68 square miles here and 36 in Nevis. We just don't have the land mass to produce an excessive amount while developing as we ought to. And so we have to go intensive, Madam Deputy Speaker. And so, in that context, and in keeping with that thrust, yes, we have launched our greenhouse initiative. And Madam Deputy Speaker, as we are here now, our first greenhouse village is being constructed. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have ordered the greenhouses. They have landed on the island. We are clearing the land and mapping out and surveying the land, building them to spec. You know why? Because as the member opposite indicated, we have to take careful consideration in the management of these villages, because they are quite technical in operating. And we had to make sure access to the greenhouse was organized by different vehicles. If you need to drive a pickup truck to it, if you need to drive something else, we had to take into account all the different factors. And the plans are out there. People are seeing the plans. And we are now designing that exactly to plan. Just like you do a house. Designing it. We're not taking a haphazard approach to this. Carefully designing our greenhouse villages. And this village that will see the clusters of greenhouses made available to farmers. And the member opposite made a point that we had to consider. A lot of the greenhouses that were issued in the past, nobody paid anything at all for it. And we also thought that that might have been a contributing factor to the deterioration. And so, yes, we're going to attach a nominal fee, just so these people understand that they have to contribute, and as they say, have skin in the game, and make it, make it easier, or should I say, make them a bit more responsible. That is what I was endeavoring to say. Make them a bit more responsible. You see, Madam Speaker, based on our projections, along with a project that we have also been working on, which will revive some of those greenhouses that were already in existence, our tally suggests that by the end of 2024, we should have over 100 active greenhouses in the Federation. That includes those in Nevis as well, because we are not approaching this as a St. Kitts thing and a Nevis thing. It is a St. Kitts Nevis thing. And so, when one considers over 100 active greenhouses in the Federation, I want us to look at this through the lens of a person in the field of agriculture and business. Madam Speaker, given that the average annual income per greenhouse is anywhere between, they would say, $100,000 to $200,000, anywhere in there. Am I right, my learned friend?
Yes, you're going well.
Okay.
They're expensive. Yes, you're going right.
The average, yes, so anywhere in there. It would mean then that if we have over 100 active greenhouses by the end of 2024, earning anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000 per year, then our sector would be in a position to earn upward of, or about, maybe up to $20 Also $1 million by 2025, if my math serves me correct. So if we're positioning our country just by the virtue of having these greenhouses operational, anywhere within that ballpark, let us say it is $20 million. That is nearly halfway already on one initiative. And later on, I will show you how other initiatives will contribute significantly more. But that one initiative already puts us at least a third of the way towards our goal. And this is something that we are very close to achieving. And I could tell you, I mean, members opposite they are alluding to it, but it is, I am a farmer myself. In fact, in 2021, the year before I got into office, I was named Agriculture Man of the Year.
I didn't know.
Yes, yes. Yes, I was the Agriculture Man of the Year. So I know a thing or two about farming. And my main area of expertise happens to be greenhouses. And so I understand greenhouse production and what could be earned from greenhouses, Madam Speaker. So when I'm saying this with a degree of understanding and knowledge of where it can go and what it takes to get there. And I just want that to be understood.
You are competent.
Quite, indeed. They even thought so in 2021. Yes. Madam Speaker, so that is our greenhouse village, positioning us close enough to 20 million in earnings by 2025, based on our current trajectory. Let us look at the area of livestock, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you could ask her, well, we produce some of the best quality meat in St. Kitts and Nevis. Hands down. You see, our meat is what they would call organic. That meat that you're going to spend a lot for in the US and Canada, generally. Generally grass-fed meat. And our swine and our poultry production and our animals are not filled with antibiotics that are considered harmful for consumers. Madam Speaker, in 2024, greater attention will be paid to the livestock sector, because the livestock sector represents 60% of our food import bill. So I want us to understand the significance of this sector. What we have endeavored to do with the livestock sector is to break it down into the areas that we can manage with our landmass. Again, it's not everything that we can do sustainably. And so we have sought to look at the areas that we could improve production. But we recognize that we needed a central center of excellence. And that is now the Bareford's Livestock Center of Excellence. Why? Because if we are going to, Madam Speaker, increase productivity in livestock, again, we need to train persons. Madam Speaker, we need to make sure that the standard of our breeds on the island is developed. Because we want to ensure that when a farmer has, let's say, any small ruminant, sheep, goat, he's not rearing an animal and feeding it for all these months for that animal to come out and give him 20 and 30 pounds, when he could have spent the same time and had an animal that gives him about 100 pounds. And so this livestock center of excellence will ensure that the genetics are right, that these breeding programs are controlled, that we have the animals in the best health, and then we now issue these young ones to our farmers so that they could then rear them. But this offers different opportunities for our farmers as well. Because here's the thing. In this country, we tend to believe that a farmer should be the chief cook and bottle washer. Not necessarily. Right now, we have our livestock farmers being breeders, some, and going on to rearing the same animal all the way up to slaughter. If you give them the chance to slaughter it themselves, but we know that that is to be done at the abattoir. But what I am saying, a man now could become a breeder and focus in that area. A man now could just buy the animals from this livestock center of excellence or from developed breeders and just rear the animal to the point of slaughter and would have nothing to worry about breeding these animals. And that way he could measure his earnings even better. But these are the opportunities that we are opening up in agriculture for our farmers. A very focused approach. That we get to understand exactly what we are doing and why we should be doing it and why we should not do some of what we are doing. And this is what we want to bring to them through the Barefoot's Livestock Center of Excellence. Now, you heard member opposite speak about poultry. And I want to take some time to speak on poultry, Madam Deputy Speaker. Because earlier this year we signed, along with our friends, the Republic of China, Taiwan, St. Kitts Nevis Sustainable Hatchery Development Project. And that project means we no longer have to import as many day-old birds as we do. We will then be hatching them on island. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, before I go into it, I must take this time to thank the member opposite, Mr. Alexis Jeffers, for the member for number 11.
My name is not in the Constitution.
Yes. The member for number 11, for his involvement in this initiative. Again, thank you, member. Because you see, Madam Deputy Speaker, the potential of this initiative is tremendous. When one considers that St. Kitts and Nevis imported near $20 million worth of chicken over 2022.
Yes. Yes.
Nearly $20 million worth of chicken. And so, obviously, where there's demand, there's opportunity. This isn't demand that we are trying to create. This is demand that we are now developing the opportunity to be filled. And so our people now would have the ability to partake in and of that $20 million of annual imports. Our friends across the channel in Nevis would have already invested in a slaughtering facility. We are now on our way in producing a hatchery. We see how the merger happens. Again, one end produce is their side of the the coin, the other end does their side, and ultimately we have a finished product. But we are not stopping there, Madam Deputy Speaker, because we are also engaged with a number of other private investors to step in. A number of local investors have been showing interest, and we are now going to develop that industry, prioritizing our local investors, not excluding our foreign private investors, but ensuring that St. Kitts and Nevis can produce not just this $20 million worth, but what I can tell you is that every other country around us, maybe, and I wouldn't say that, but when you look at countries like Cayman, Antigua, even the Virgin Islands, their consumption is as much or more. I think Antigua is slightly over, yes. So generally more. Madam Deputy Speaker, again, there's opportunity. Because now if we can produce not only for ourselves, but produce for them, then we see where we can help our people to earn. And with the hatchery right here, and we get the day-old chicks, and we rear them for the few weeks that it takes to get them where they need to be. And then we send them to the slaughtering facilities, and we package them. Then we can be feeding the region. This isn't a grandiose or far-fetched idea. It is right there, Madam Speaker. The problem is no one had the faith or the will to believe it. We've had projects on the books, like the Bastia Abattoir, since 2010. Nothing being done. Nevis went ahead full steam. Now we trying to play catch up with Nevis. Well, you say if you had given the money, you would have do it? Well, you should have told him, give you... if he was here, but... But, Madam Deputy Speaker, we see there was no will. Or maybe just that they didn't have any ideas, maybe. And I'm not speaking of the member for Nevis 11, because I've seen where he had made some contributions. And unfortunately, he lasted maybe, what, a year and a half, 2 years?
2 years.
2 years in the position. In a...
A year and a half. It's not a year and 3/4.
Less than 2 years.
You get fired too.
Honourable members, honourable member for Nevis 11, honourable member for Nevis 10, and honourable member for St. Christopher 3. Please allow the honourable member for St. Christopher 4 to continue his presentation. Thank you. Yes, but let's proceed, please.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I think it is clear what I'm saying. The poultry industry has a lot of potential for growth and development, not just for locals, but for the region as well. And I believe we can capitalize on all of it from right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But another area of interest, Madam Speaker, that is less popular in our jurisdiction, but in some other nearby jurisdictions, very popular, is the area of rabbit production. Madam Speaker, you have in most of the French territories some paying upward of $20 per pound of rabbit meat. And again, let us look at this from a simple position of agriculture. A rabbit gets how many young ones?
A load.
So let's say about 8. How often?
Very often.
So they just say,
Let's say every 2 months.
Can't remember.
So that's 6 times a year. Help me with the maths, engineer.
6 times 8?
Yes.
How much is that?
48.
48.
48.
So call it
say the
50.
40 plus 8.
So call it 50.
So let's round it off at 50.
Only call it 50.
So that's 50 rabbits from 1 rabbit per year. Each one will give you about what, 3 to 5 pounds?
Something about, yeah.
What the 2 pounds?
So let's even say 3 pounds on the lowest side. 50 times 3, that's 150 pounds at 20 US dollars.
20 US. That's 3,000.
That's how much, engineer?
150 you said?
Yeah, pounds by 20 US dollars
Yeah, that's 3,000.
from 1 rabbit.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
You understand? You understand where?
Again, your plans and rabbit.
So, and this is not make up. This ain't make up. These are the opportunities that exist out there if we are innovative enough and driven enough to harness them. The people out there eating rabbit meat and paying that price for it. We are just not participating in that market as a supplier. And I am saying that has to change now. And so my drive for this is to ensure that we no longer just come in as consumers, but we come in as producers. We come in to supply our people and the region. And I know we can do it. It is quite easily done. We have a number of rabbit farmers that are organizing now. And so this is something that we are going to capitalize on. And I want us to be clear about that. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to know how much time I have.
Still have a lot.
Yeah, man.
I'll inform you when you post it.
Yes. Trying to manage the time because, I got 2 others. But,
Yeah, about 47 minutes of speaking.
okay, good. So, Madam Speaker, I want to move on to another area that's going to help us to understand.
Sorry, you have around 42 minutes.
Left?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, excellent. I want us to go to an area that will help us to also contextualize our drive towards our target. It is believed, Madam Speaker, that we lose about 60% of what we produce post-harvest. Let me contextualize that. If we produce 10 tomatoes, somewhere between picking the tomato and it being consumed, 6 out of the 10 is lost. Whether the farmer decide he want 50 cents less for his tomato and he can leave it in his field to spoil, or he might have stored it in an incorrect way, or it might have gotten damaged in transport, or damaged somewhere in a storage room, or whatever the case is. They're saying, or animal damage it, whatever the case is, we lose about 60% post-harvest. That's the belief. Now, by any measure, that's a significant figure. By any measure. So, again, if you want to get to your agenda, you must tackle this area. Because that's a significant figure. And so, recognizing that, the ministry went to work, went again to delivery. And the first part we decided, 1, training, as we spoke about earlier, and Mr. Emmanuel is actually one of the region's leading experts in post-harvest management, and he's coming here to train our people in that area. 2, so now you're training your people how to manage it. 2, improving your storage. Because one of the things that allows our fresh produce to spoil rather quickly is improper storage. And so, Madam Speaker, we are going to increase our storage capacity because we just have to if we increase in production. And I'm happy and thrilled to say that we've already procured 2 brand new walk-in chills that will be installed at the Tabernacle Outreach Center. These chills are underway and set to be installed in the first quarter of 2024. Later 2024, Madam Speaker, we are going to install a number of other chills at the Department of Agriculture, Madam Speaker. And one of the things that I want to also say is that our greenhouse villages will have storage attached to these villages as well. Why? A man from Tabernacle should not have to drive all the way to town with his tomatoes or fresh produce in the sun, in the heat, to get them damaged. He should be able to store them right there in his area. And so we have sought our outreach centers for the same reason that we have located them where they are. Tabernacle, Foyes, Boston. So you have one in close proximity where you can store your fresh produce. Madam Speaker, this right here will inevitably extend the natural shelf life of our produce, and quite exciting to me, increase our consistency in supplying the market. And why I say that's quite exciting to me, Madam Speaker, is because last year while I was here, I spoke about consistency and how important consistency is to penetrate the market. Because one of the other areas post-harvest that a lot of people don't necessarily highlight that helps is improved marketing and sales. And consistency will help us to improve marketing and sales. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, once we're able to store our produce in a proper storage system, we are trained to handle them well, store them well, package them well, then they go to the market well, which means the consumer is happier to purchase. And I could tell you that in conversations with a number of supermarkets, and I could name the Ram Supermarket and Hosford's Value Mart, those two specifically, have committed that once we have consistency, they will look to St. Kitts first before importing anything that we can produce here. This is what we are talking about, Madam Speaker. So you see how I've gone from production and how possible it is to produce, to sales, and how possible it is to sell. Madam Speaker, I also wish to note that we have been consistently receiving calls from a number of nearby territories. St. Martin, Statia, the Virgin Islands, where they want us to supply them with our local produce. Now, if our 25% target is 50 million, and St. Martin's food bill is higher than ours, what does that mean for opportunities for our farmers? The Virgin Islands, their food bill is higher than ours. What does that mean regarding opportunity for our farmers? And so, when I hear some of these paid political programs talking about the 25 by 25 can't walk, and I wonder what world they're living in. But then I remember that some of them, Madam Speaker, would have been in the capacity, and some of them would have been minister, and nothing happened.
So that's what they expect.
Exactly. They don't know any better. And so when things start to happen now, they start to get frightened. Because they can't let the world see things happening in a short time, and they were there for so long and nothing happened. So they try all kind of thing and all kind of thing and all kind of thing. Try distract with this, try distract with that. If somebody walk down the road and they turn around and they drop an apple, it's somewhere where they drop the apple. But, Madam Speaker, the facts are the facts. The facts are the facts. And so, when we complete the MOUs that we are now doing, and we are able to spread all that is happening out to the public fully, then the public will understand with even greater detail the targets that they have. And I'm going to come to some of that, Madam Speaker, because there's some other exciting information that I want our people to understand. You see, Madam Speaker, we are looking at an agricultural system here. And we've gone from production, we've gone to the concept of training and post-harvest management. But there's another area that I want us to focus on as we look at post-harvest as an area. And that's agro-processed goods. Because sometimes, Madam Speaker, you just have more goods than you could sell at the time. What do? Let them go back to spoiling? No, Madam Speaker. You put those goods into agro-processing. And so rather than letting your peppers spoil because you don't have a ready market, you make pepper sauce. You make a seasoning. Rather than letting your mangoes fall to the ground because nobody ready to buy them, we gather them and send them to Nevis where they can pulp them and bag them and refrigerate them for when the season is not running. These are things that we are already deep in discussions about. And again, because we have a collaborative approach, we have already recognized where we could lean on what Nevis has or where they could lean on what we have. These are the depths of the discussions that we are having. And so now, when that mango tree in the gut is in full bloom, rather than watching those mangoes drop to the ground, we gather them and send them Nevis. And Nevis is going to pulp them and package them. And what I can say here now, I have gotten some requests for containers of mango pulp. And it is my intention here, and I'm saying it here boldly now, to ship the first container of mango pulp from this country before the end of 2025.
Send about 4 pulpit machines to Nevis. Let's see action.
But this is what we're talking about, Madam Speaker. Real, practical, not just dreaming, a practical approach to getting to our goal. And so when I sit down with the Permanent Secretary of Agriculture in Nevis, we have these discussions. How many soursop trees you have in Nevis, you think? How many do we have in St. Kitts? And when we look at it on a scope and recognize we should have about 6,000 or more across the Federation, then we recognize, like Grenada recognized, you have industrial value in these things. Because 6,000 or more soursop trees represent over 100 acres of production. But are we looking at it through that lens? And if you have 100 acres of production and you have a centralized gathering facility, packaging facility, then you could export. So the man who got 2 soursop trees in the yard could bring it to the same place the man who have a farm with 50. And you gather all of them, and you package all of them right. And you have people in the US and Canada and Europe that's waiting for soursop. And if you know, like I know, the value of soursop out there is quite high. These are the real practical approaches that we are taking. And so, I'm not just sitting on this. I've already discussed with our friends, the Embassy of Taiwan, the Republic of China, Taiwan. And we expect that sometime next year we're going to have 2 experts come down to assess trees in a number of areas. We have focused on mangoes, soursops, bananas, plantain, breadfruit. And these are areas that we plan to develop. 1, in assessing what we currently have, and 2, to see how we can expand from there. Because let me say something that, and our senator spoke about the traveling. I remember going to Grenada earlier this year. And I had a few hours in the day before I left. And I said to the minister, you know what, I would like to do a tour of the farms in Grenada. And he said, sure. And he came and we organized a tour. We went around Grenada. I'm aware that Grenada makes somewhere around $30 million off of spices, nutmegs predominantly. And I'm looking around at the farms and recognizing to myself, I don't see any extensive production of nutmeg to warrant $30 million. So I asked him, how is it that you make $30 million off of nutmeg, but I don't see any extensive nutmeg farms? He laughed. He said, that's not it. Our production comes from the man who got 2, 3 trees in the backyard. That sent a light bulb off in my head. Because it then forced me to ask myself, what do we have in St. Kitts that we are not capitalizing on that has the same type of production capacity that they have with nutmeg? And that's when I looked around, and every angle I looked, I saw a breadfruit tree. I looked around, and every angle I looked, I see a soursop tree. Looked around, and every angle I looked, I saw a mango tree. So then it started ringing. What if we take the same approach that they're taking with nutmeg with these crops? But again, thought and innovation. Maybe you can't expect these ideas from some of them that was there. But we have it now. And we're well on our way. And I'm happy to be here to serve the people in this capacity. And so, Madam Speaker, we see where sometimes it is just being in the right space, in the right time. And that's what traveling is about. You travel to network with people, share ideas. I remember when we were at Caribbean Week of Agriculture, and I had a discussion with my colleague minister in Jamaica, Mr. Green, and I spoke to him about what we are doing here regarding our drought resilience project. To my astonishment, Mr. Green came back into the meeting and said to the whole meeting, Jamaica will be adopting what St. Kitts is doing down there. That was such a proud moment to see large Jamaica, far more advanced in food production than St. Kitts, saying, we believe so much in what you're doing, your plans and your agenda, we will adopt it. And I appreciate that. But this is what it's all about. We go, we learn from them. We go, sometimes they learn from us. This is what it's all about. So, Madam Speaker, I don't want to, belabor that, but outside of just crops, because we focus on crops and livestock, under that ministry we also have fisheries. And the fisheries sector, going back again to my senator, the expert in environment.
That's right.
She used a term, we are large ocean states.
Yes.
So if the crop sector has so much potential, and our oceans are how much time bigger than our landmass?
The EEZ is like 770 times bigger.
770 times.
Bigger.
So 770 times. You understand? Times, not 770 feet, but times. Madam Speaker, you understand the potential of our ocean. How are we to harness it? I sat with fishing cooperatives and I asked a simple question. How far do you typically go out to fish? The furthest that I've heard is about 30 to 40 feet. At the furthest, typically 20 feet. Sorry, and I'm using the wrong measurement. Miles.
Okay.
Miles, sorry. Miles, not feet. Not feet. Miles. I was using the wrong metric. Miles. But, Madam Speaker, the typical EEZ goes as far out as 200 miles? Expert? Huh? It's about 200 miles, typically. Now, if we're going on average 20 miles, it means that we have only been using 10% of our ocean space. So our potential in this is 90% greater. So again, there's a huge amount of opportunity for our people. But how do we harness this opportunity? Then you have to figure out why they are not going further out. Correct. They don't have the right vessels to do it. In some cases, they're not adequately trained to handle the high seas. In a lot of cases, even going out to the 20 miles, they did not have ice to preserve their catch, so then they just wouldn't go. Because I remember I used to buy swordfish from a fisherman in Old Road. And for months I would go and he wouldn't have any swordfish. And I asked, but why are you not going out to fish for my swordfish? Because I like the swordfish. He said, boy, no ice here. So the little ice machine that was in there can't do the job. So this is about 2021. Lo and behold, I moved from there to becoming the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. And I fixed that. First year, that was fixed. And for 3 to 4 years prior to that, no ice. So now they could go fishing again. So much so that we had a fisheries tournament, and the biggest marlin we ever see catch in this country was caught. The ice caused that. Because they had the confidence to go out now because they could preserve the catch. But this is what it's all about. And so we see where, Madam Speaker, we have a great deal of potential in the fisheries sector. But we have to harness it. And in harnessing it, there were a few other things that I gathered from the discussions that I've been having. The fishermen are saying that the Japanese had given us 2 fads some 10, 12 years ago, which are fish aggregating devices. They were deployed, they're usually deployed out at sea. Fish use them the younger fish use them for protection. Larger fish then feed on the younger fish that's there. just to give a general idea of what it is. Now, Madam Speaker, I then calculated, along with the team, in discussion, if we have 2 fads, that's giving us a substantial amount of our productivity, then what would happen if we had 10? The general answer that I gave back was, we'll catch more fish. So then I said, then why don't we have 10? They said that because the fads were expensive and that's all we got from the Japanese. Well, I am happy to say the Japanese paid me a visit about a month ago. And when I sat with the Japanese, I made my case. And the Japanese said to me, they see an opportunity where we could get 10 more fads by 2024. Now, Madam Speaker, our fisheries sector currently brings in anywhere between $7 to $10 million a year. Let's take the sector in Grenada again. For tuna, Grenada makes about somewhere around $1 million off of tuna alone. Again, a sector that we could develop off of these same fats. But to get there, Madam Speaker, you need a few other things that we don't yet have fully developed. One is safety and monitoring systems. Because the further out you go, the more dangerous it becomes, Madam Speaker. You see, I'm glad I have had no interest in being a fisherman. Because when I look out to sea, and there are points where I cannot see from land, or I'm out to sea and I cannot see the land from where I'm at, I have a problem. But luckily, we have people that are brave enough to go and do that and bring that back for us to eat. Our duty then is to make sure that they're safe and protected as much as we can. And so, in 2024, we will be investing in safety and monitoring systems so that we could then identify GPS locations of the boat and have monitoring systems that if there's an issue, we could get there as soon as possible and find them. Because remember, unlike land, where we could map out the roads, the seawater don't have roads. So they can't tell you they're down John Lane and cross the corner from Ann Street. And so we need to have GPS locators so that we could find exactly where these boats are. That is a duty that we have. Also, as we spoke about the ice already, but also a critical component, they just need better equipment. And so, when one considers that, if you really want to meet a 25 by 25 agenda, then you must make sure you put all your bricks in place. And so, to get better equipment, Madam Speaker, comes with financing. And Madam Speaker, we recognize that the financing in agriculture must go beyond that which is provided by the government. Because you see, the government does a lot for our farmers. When I speak with my colleague ministers, they want to know what happens in St. Kitts because the amount of things we give to farmers here is unheard of in most of the countries. But that's just where we are and who we are. But it must go beyond that, Madam Speaker. And so, today as I stand here, I note that in building on the work that we've been doing over the past 12 months, the ministry is gearing up to launch a revolutionary financial program in the first quarter of 2024. This program we call the Fisheries, Agriculture and Cannabis Expansion Program. Madam Speaker, this program is going to be the first of its kind in the region across the entire spectrum of agriculture. It was tested partly in the fisheries sector in St. Vincent. And in those tests that they had, and I wouldn't call it a test now because it is now implemented, but in its implementation in 1 year, well, maybe a bit over a year, they have been able to purchase about 3 large tuna fishing boats, 11 smaller boats, a number of boats. They took the fisheries sector to the next level. And so we have now remodeled that for the entire agricultural sector, inclusive of the cannabis, medical cannabis sector. And we are now about to implement that for our people. What does this mean and what does it do? What this model does, it de-risks lending in such a way that once there's a demand that we can harness, we can collaborate between the government, financial institutions, farmer, and the purchaser to ensure that the financial institutions will be happy to lend that money. You hear farmers all the time and fisher folks saying they go to the bank and they can't get a loan. This model will ensure that 90% or more of those fisher folks and farmers will get that loan. And we have sat and we have worked this model. And we are now getting ready to implement in first quarter next year.
Is that a revolving fund?
We're going to speak more about that. But it's not a revolving fund per se. It is collaboration. It is a very intricate model of collaboration that de-risks these loans and encourage the banks to lend. And what it also takes into account, Madam Speaker, that we have missed the boat on in large measure is farmers' insurance. We have to protect our farmers with the use of insurance policies, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, when you look at all of this and what we are doing for our farming sector, our fisheries sector, how could you not say we're walking in the right direction? Madam Speaker, we're talking about innovative projects. And some of the things I can't even explain the way ministers from other countries will come to myself or the permanent secretary and say, explain to us how I put an oil plant together, because I seem to have the most advanced plan for the 25 by 25. Ministers, I'm telling you, not even just technical staff. But you don't want to put ministers' name out. So but ministers. You know? And so when we are here and you have failed ministers and failed politicians talking, sometimes I just listen and smile and keep it moving. Because at the end of the day, the one thing I've learned in life, success speaks louder than any lie or any distraction. Success will speak louder than any lie or any distraction. And so when they're out there trying to peddle this and peddle that, then if it is so, then prove it.
Honourable Member for St. Christopher 4, you have 10 minutes remaining.
All right. Thank you. So, Madam Speaker, I think I've, come down to the end of agriculture. So we're talking about a number of initiatives, but one of the initiatives I want to highlight that I feel proud about, and again, we've received a great deal of commendation across the region, is our agri-market on 869 to go. Where, Madam Speaker, we have put our local farmers market online. Huh? Yes, and again, you see, no, I give credit where it's due. I give credit where it's due. But Madam,
You're going to say give credit where it's due.
yes, but it's all collaborative. And Madam Speaker, what this does is that you could be at home cooking and recognize that you need some type of vegetable and you're alone in the house and you don't want to leave your pot, and you just get on your phone, order your vegetable from the farmers, from the market, they package that vegetable and deliver it right to your house while you're still there continuing cooking. Innovation at its best. Innovation at its best. You could be at the office running late, or even here in Parliament, Madam Speaker, and ordering your vegetables for the weekend.
Nice.
Innovation at its best.
Nice.
And this is what we're talking about, Madam Speaker. Advancement and transformation of the agricultural sector. That is what I promised on my campaign, and that is what I'm delivering here now. And I could stand and represent it, not just in talk, but you see the action. Madam Speaker, how could I move off of agriculture and not talk about the tractors? Madam Speaker, up until this year, we were using tractors basically from the sugar era. We had 10 million stimulus package for COVID, 10 million, 10 million, 10 million. But what we see out of it? Huh? Really? They're there, but what we see for it? 10 million and what we see? We had 4 million this year, Madam Speaker, for our agriculture support. And you see greenhouses, from the greenhouse, you see tractor, you see drip. You understand? And they got 10 and we got 4, and look at the difference.
Should I stick with massive volumes?
Huh?
Should I stick with massive? That's just my opinion.
And entitled. But Madam Speaker, this is what we are doing. And the tractors, they are so efficient that in talking to the staff now, all the backed up lands that we had to plow, the staff saying, no, we might have to just put some of them on the side for a while because we don't take care of most of the land preparation that was backed up. This is what we're talking about, advancement. Meanwhile, nah, people here, tell them less the noise, man. Less your noise. Now, Madam Speaker, I think I want to move on to cooperatives. You see, Madam Speaker, the cooperatives department was placed within the Ministry of Agriculture last year. But after careful evaluation, we've recognized that the cooperative department will be much better served now that we have a Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship and coupled with that. Why? While today our cooperatives department services and works with many of our agriculture-based cooperatives, that isn't the entire mandate of the department. It must be wider. And so we believe by putting it into a structure of business, it will then be able to serve its true purpose. It would never be able to neglect the agriculture-based cooperatives, because even the Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, many of their small business persons that they serve are indeed agro-processors and persons in the agricultural industry. And so the mandate remains the same as far as the service to those persons in that sector. But what about the wider society, Madam Speaker? What about those businesses that have nothing to do with agriculture? They should have the ability to be able to join themselves into a co-op as well. But most people are not moving towards that area because cooperatives has been seen for too long as an agricultural-based thing. And so we, again, vision, innovation, if you want to call it that, but we've decided to change that scope and put it in a place where people can see it for what it is. But not just that. Let us look at what we are saying. We are saying that we want to create a one-stop shop for business persons, where you come with an idea and we develop that business all the way through. After we have developed a business plan, after we have had you attain your business license and all the documents for you to function as a business, and then we've helped you with your sales and marketing, and you're now earning a revenue and you've developed into a sustainable business, then what? The next best step is for you to join some type of organized structure and body or grouping of like businesses for protection and security. That is the whole idea of developing cooperatives. And so if that is the next natural step for our business, and we have the Department of Cooperative that serves that purpose, then it just combines to the one-stop shop that we are talking about. And so this is what this is all about. And as we talk about the Ministry of Small Business, as I move on, I want to put some focus on that ministry. Doing very well, I must say. The Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Everybody is talking about that ministry. Now, the whole idea of that ministry, like I said, it was to create a one-stop shop. And in the creation of that one-stop shop, Madam Speaker, we are seeing where that ministry has now found itself a home. People are now coming and registering. And last year, they offered training. Last year, they said, 2023, we will offer training for our small businesses. I am happy to note, Madam Speaker, that over 223 persons were trained in 2023 in a number of areas. In customer service, marketing and branding, grant readiness, financial management, digital marketing, bookkeeping. Over 223 small businesses were trained in 2023 alone. Imagine what's going to happen in 2024. Madam Speaker, last year when I was here, the mandate of the ministry then was to improve access to grant and financing. I am happy again to note that the ministry had officially launched its branding and its thrust in August of this year with our Independence 40 celebratory grant that we call the 40 by 40 booster grant, where 40 young businesses got grant funding of up to $5,000 to boost their business. Now, Madam Speaker, this grant, you had to have a business license to qualify. For this grant, you had to have a business plan to qualify. And you had to attend training sessions to be able to qualify for this grant. But this is what we want to do, structuring programs like these. We're not talking about people walking into bank and walking out with cash in their pocket. We ain't talking about these kind of things. We're talking about structured approaches. Structured, organized approaches.
Honourable Member for St. Christopher 4, your time is up.
May I be granted further time?
The question is that the Honourable Member be given an additional 30 minutes to present. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so we see we have been meeting our mandate, Madam Speaker, as it relates to our development of the small business sector. And in 2024, we have a number of exciting plans still to come for that sector. But as I am here, let me go on and talk about another area, because I think the small business sector, people understand and appreciate that it is doing very well. So I don't want to, belabor that point. I want to talk about the Department of the Creative Economy, another area that is doing quite well, Madam Speaker. You see, the Department of the Creative Economy launched its new branding this year in July and had everybody singing its chant, had everybody excited about all its operations. And in 2024, I believe it's going to go even further, Madam Speaker, with that. Because you see, Madam Speaker, we endeavored in 2023 to expand some of our programs, like training in our schools of dance and music. And I was so delighted when our lead drumming specialist, Mr. Roy Phipps, met me at the circus recently, and he said, "Boy, I would like to stay on another year. I just wrote for an extension because I can't leave now." You know how good it feels to see that all the years we've been asking for more drums so that we could expand our drumming program into the rural areas and into the private schools, and we could not get them. And you just come into office and we get over 70 new drums out of Africa. This is what we're talking about. So now the rural schools and private schools can benefit from the services of the department. Our children can now partake even better in learning to drum. Not like the member from number 3, who's when he started to beat the drum. I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you. But Madam Speaker, this is what we are talking about. Moving and advancing our people forward. And these are the type of projects that, for me, I am happy to be a part of, to see that they go much further than where I met them. Because, Madam Speaker, our children deserve the best. And if all it takes is just some focus, some effort, and some investment, then we have to do it. We have to do it, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to take some time to talk about, in the creative economy, our Creative Arts Fund. Because again, we talk about advancing the sector. And part of advancing the sector is access to financing for creatives. And this year, we launched the Creative Arts Fund. And under that program, Madam Speaker, we see where our people will have access of up to $15,000 grant funding. Madam Speaker, you apply online, your application is reviewed, and if you meet the criteria, you could get up to $15,000 grant funding. Again, more empowerment for creators. We've also, Madam Speaker, launched our mural project. Another exciting project for me, Madam Speaker. Why? Because this project sees our visual artists who have long been forgotten, pushed in the backs, now at the forefront. And we didn't just say, "Hey, artists, come and paint a mural." What we did, and collaboration again, Mr. Leonard Stapleton out of Nevis, one of our foremost historians, did a number of training sessions with these artists about our culture, our people, and the depths of who we are, to inspire their art. So now when they paint a mural, that mural considers the depth of our culture, the depth of who we are and our history. And so when we go into these communities, they paint murals symbolic of the community in which the mural is, and the history and the culture of the people. So imagine walking home and the place look pretty and nice and bright. Artwork all around. And you could be happy in your community. This is what we've been invested in, Madam Speaker. And before I come off of that, Madam Speaker, I want to speak a little bit about We Village That. Because I was just talking about celebrating our culture and our people. And we have launched the We Village That initiative. And what this is where we go around to communities and celebrate our people and our culture. We have done Mat Night. They had myself and the honorable member for number 2 dancing masquerade. We have done Tabernacle. We have done Old Road. And we come into some of the other villages. I think our next one is Connery, and then we come into the other villages. But, Madam Speaker, Champsville.
Yes.
Yes, Champsville. But, Madam Speaker, we have to ensure that we celebrate our people and our culture. And in 2024, we will do just that. And this budget assists us in doing just that. And as I start to attempt to close down completely, I want to speak briefly on sports, Madam Speaker. Because you see, Madam Speaker, in the area of sports, we have met a lot of challenges coming in. Every single national facility was far below standard, Madam Speaker, every single one. And so, when I am attempting to do work on Newtown Playing Field, which is in the final stage, Madam Speaker, I must say, of its development, and then I get a call and say, the septic at St. Peter's is backing up and overflowing, I have to then make sure that is taken care of. And then when you're doing that and they're saying that a wall down St. Paul's is falling, we still have to go and try to take care of that. And so you have galvanized blowing off in Newtown. You have wall falling in St. Paul's. Then you ask yourself, what were these people doing? How is it all of our facilities are dilapidated? And in 1 year, now Newtown, well, first full year, Newtown is in its final stage of repair. We're getting ready to start work down at the wall in St. Paul's. St. Peter's.
Yes, thank you. What you just say it again?
St. Paul's, getting the wall rectified. St. Peter's, we've done some work. We have done some work in Half-a-Tree, which again was a hazard. We have done work again on the Kim Collins Stadium. We've seen all the comments on the Kim Collins Stadium at the last athletic season. And I want to say that the chairs to replace in the stadium are at the stadium right now. There's a container there with the chairs. And we have been working at repairing the entire track. But we have a decision to make. Whether or not we repair the track now, which takes a few months, and delay the athletic season, or allow the athletic season to go on, and then repair the track after. And so, because we don't want to delay the athletic season because we recognize it's tied with the curriculum in school, we have decided to delay the track installation until after the season closes. Also, the roofing on the stadium, again taking a few months, we have decided to, so all those major repairs, we have decided to delay them until after the season, but we are going to do some work on the seating because there's a debate again. Do we put the new seat in before we fix the roof, or wait until we fix the roof before we put the new seat in? But we guarantee sure that people cannot go back in them same old seats at this coming meet. And so that will be fixed.
Thank you.
That will be fixed. In just over a year. So what happened in the 10 years that nothing was done? How? Just over a year. And so, Madam Speaker, this is the work that we are doing. But as it relates to sports as well, we talk about getting sports back into the schools. For years, sports was not in our schools. And we relaunched that this year. We said it last year in the budget, that is the plan. And that we did. We just concluded the football tournament in the schools. Exciting tournament, if I might say so. And Madam Speaker, if you see the enthusiasm in the children and the parents and the fans, if you see the electricity in the atmosphere when the games are playing, Madam Speaker, then you understand why this had to be done. And next year, 2024, we are already in discussions and working with Dame Marcella Liebert to relaunch netball in our schools. And we are also talking with sponsors to relaunch cricket in our schools. Getting the job done. That's what we come here for. Get the job done. Sustainable development. Moving to our what? Sustainable island state. That's right. That's right. And, Madam Speaker, we could go on in sports and talk about a number of the other initiatives that we have going on. Some of which we could speak on sports tourism. Whereas next year, we are expected to have a great deal of tournaments being brought into this country. Netball, football, volleyball, have about 3 or more international tournaments coming. Cricket. And we're going to talk more about that, but Madam Speaker, this is what we're talking about, the development of sports tourism. You see, we believe that through sports tourism, our people will be exposed to sports at a level a bit higher than what we see on the island firsthand. And that's training, that's enjoyment, and also that's revenue coming into the country and the use of our facilities. It's comprehensive, Madam Speaker. Well thought through, visionary approach. But this is what we're doing. This is what this government is about. Not a fly-by-night thing where I'll leave that for the Prime Minister to talk. I'll leave that. But before I close, there are 2 things I want to say, Madam Speaker, because I recognize my time might be winding. Carnival 52. I think by all accounts, we have gone off to a great start. We've had an excellent Sugar Mass Award, and Honorable Member for number 3 brought the curtains down in grand style. Yes. Still ain't missing a beat. He still look like he got it a little bit.
Coming back next year.
But I must say though, Madam Speaker, with the quality of our junior Calypso show, I believe just now the member for number 3 may have a problem.
That's why I'm coming back next year.
In fact, it was one of his constituents
Yes.
that won one of the crown.
Did it again, boy?
And also others. But, Madam Speaker,
And the young lady from
from Nevis, yes, that also won the crown.
primary school.
Yes.
Zen.
Yeah, 90Z.
90 Zen.
But when we look at that, Madam Speaker, we also realize that Talented Teen look like another one for the books. Miss St. Kitts is promising to be a wonderful experience. I mean, when you hear online, again, all kind of thing, that majority of the troops already sold out. Some of them before we barely get into December, and they sold out already. You understand where Carnival is going. And so I'm happy to be the Minister of Carnival at this time, but I must take this time to thank the Carnival Committee and the chairperson and team for the hard work that they are doing there and all that they are bringing. I must also thank the sponsors of National Carnival, including the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, for their contribution to making it a success. I also want to thank the creative economy for the work that they're doing. They are at the venue doing rehearsals every night, till sometimes 2, 3 in the morning, just to ensure that you have a quality product. And I want to thank all the stakeholders. But I can't close, Madam Speaker, without talking about my constituency. You see, we've been able to complete roads in Challengers, thanks to the member for number 3. Madam Speaker, I am looking forward, and I'm saying it to the member of number 3 as well, to the Wingfield Road being completed. And a few other roads in Old Road that we need some urgent attention. Halfway Tree, we're looking forward to that development. Green Acres, and the roads in New Guinea. But I am assured by the member that these are all coming. Right, member?
Absolutely.
That's right. Also, Madam Speaker, I must talk about tourism, because you cannot talk about tourism and not talk about my constituency in one way or another. And you can't talk about the constituency and not talk about tourism. Because most of our tourists visit Carabel Batik, right in the constituency. And most of my constituents make money off of tourism. And so when we have such a buzzy season, I got to give thanks to the honorable member for making things happier in my constituency and more and busier. Thank you again, member for number 2, because your work has been doing wonders in my constituency. Thank you. I also must take time out to talk about what we are doing with the cannabis industry, Madam Speaker. Because you see, they say that a lot of the master growers come from number 4. That's what they say. Somewhere between Old Road, Godwin, God, they say got the best master grower. But nonetheless, our development in the cannabis industry is going to be significant. We've done a whole legislative agenda for this year. And we are now ready to start rolling out in a practical sense. Just recently, the chair, not just the chair, but the CEO of the Cannabis Authority visited Southern University, and we are now getting ready to formulate a structured plan as to how we will approach it 2024. Madam Speaker, I know in the election of 2015, the cannabis development was a topic. In the election of 2020, the cannabis development was a topic. In the election of 2022, the development of the industry was a topic. And in none of those years, any substantial work was done. But from 2022, since this government has been in office, to now, 2023, we have done all the legislative work, and we are getting ready for the practical side of it. So imagine in less than 2 years, what couldn't be done from 2015 to 2020, from 2020 to 2020, is now being done. This is what we're talking about. We're getting the job done. We're developing our people and our industries. They're diversifying from where we were, because we recognize we have to, and that is critical. So, Madam Speaker, I'm happy. I'm happy to be able to represent the good people of not just constituency number 4, but the farmers, the fisher folk, the cooperatives, small business entities, sports, the creative. I'm happy to be representing them. I can't say it's not demanding, it is. Because I have ministries that take place, most of the activities take place after the working day. And so you have to work all day and then work all night. Because most sporting games now take place in the evening. Most shows take place in the evening or on the weekend. And so while I work in the office all day, I still have a hectic agenda afterward. But I am happy. But I'm happy because I could bring innovation and advancement to these sectors. And I'm happy to have the support of a government and a team that can help to drive that innovation. Because while I am the minister, it's not a lone thing. When we sit and I ask for anything from any one of my ministers, they are always willing to support and help. And that's why I love this A team. And I know that with the support of the A team, we will continue climbing higher and higher and higher and higher. And our connection across the channel will also, as we've heard, be strengthened. So, as I wrap up, Madam Speaker, I also always believe that the continued advancement of this country will be accomplished on specific principles. The principle of public and private partnership, the principle of collaboration, innovation, capacity building, people empowerment, accountability, transparency, and inclusion. And Madam Speaker, these will be our guiding lights to ensure our fiscal and strategic plans are executed well and with the widest reach and most responsible management and use of our state resources, Madam Speaker. We have to use our people's resources responsibly, and that is what we have committed to, and I hope my presentation today has shown that that is what we are doing. May it please you, Madam Speaker.